about you. I always have a backup plan. Rise to the top, or get left in the dust. Let us not dawdle. I always keep my options open. Always keep your eye on the prize. Is there money to be made? Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
Lord Captain. It is wise for a rogue trader to have caches where they can safely store important information. And utterly unwise to share the coordinates of such caches with anyone. I'm afraid I do not know how to find the caches, but I can offer some help. Your predecessor used this numeric code to deactivate certain defense systems in her service. If I know Lady Theodora as well as I think, then I'm quite certain that she left her caches well guarded. In that... Lord Captain. Lord Captain.
To what do I owe this visit? Yes, but not here. I wouldn't want... To what do I owe this visit? The cult's ordinary members are humans who have been corrupted by the archenemy, traitors to the Imperium, and accomplices of chaos. Participation in the cult's rituals always entails brainwashing, literally and figuratively. The longer cult members spend among other cultists, the less critically they think, and the more... As for those at the top of the cult's hierarchy, we have not yet managed to get a lead on all of the cult's leaders. I imagine that some of them are hiding in the depths of the Coronis Expanse. But those who are orchestrating... I need to confirm the reports from my agents. According to them, one of the cult's leaders is in the Kiava Gamma segment, an industrial world within the dominion of the Von Valancius dynasty. Governors, commanders, rogue traders. History is full of those who neglect their duty. We discovered the first traces of it as soon as we arrived in the Cronus Expanse. Since then, the more we learn, the better we see just how as you wish.
Allow me to thank you again for helping me with the cargo, Sherin. I am sure the Ashmags who squirreled away my goods won't give up so easily, and I'll hear more about their scheming yet. Let's strike a deal, Sherin. I will watch your back, if you do me a favor and watch mine. Well, enough jokes. Is there something you wanted? Oh, Sherin, I did manage to spark your interest. Allow me to invite you to a more private place. My words are meant for your ears alone. May the Exalted One protect you. Have you grown bored without our little talk? No truer words have ever been said. I'm far more exciting than some small-time peddlers from Footfall. Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Jai Amira Fatqin Tamiri Ash Ifrit, the 12th daughter of the Lord of Ifrit, a distant world at the fringes of the Imperium. The youngest child is destined to become a bargaining chip in the family's political games. But I was unwilling to accept such a fate, and wanted to choose what to become and which path to follow. When I learned the Exalted One watches over hundreds of other worlds amidst distant stars, the Keronis Expanse. A gorgeous name, isn't it? But this backwater wasn't my original destination when I escaped Sherin. Oh no, it was the rumors of incredible freedom that brought me to the Keronis Expanse. Freedom that is generously bestowed upon everyone who can survive in these parts. All doors are open here. You can become a saint, a mogul, a kingmaker, or anyone you like, really. Here, hard work pays off. I convinced my father I personally wished to oversee the inspection of imported goods. I had to get experience so I wouldn't bring shame on our family, didn't I? I made friends with traders, missionaries, and soldiers at the port. I listened to their stories, studied the charts, learned what documents I had to forge to escape the planet. A kind word here, a shiny coin there. And here I am, in the iron belly of a ship, braving the void in... Consider it a mark of my trade. This here? Xenos. Dumb-headed orcs. Who knew that we weren't the only ones to get tempted by the wreck of that raider? As for this treasure, I received it as a reward for a life that had been just a little too good. I was in a hurry to get to the Adeptus Amasacus after the Exalted One blessed me with immense wealth. I was 2 backstreets away from the den when a pathetic... All relationships are based on mutual trust. That goes for business too. The youngest child is destined to become a bargaining chip in the family's All relationships are based on mutual trust. That goes for business. The dark side is the real Keronis Expanse, if you ask me. But what do you want to know about it, Sherin? Dynasty drink with criminals. Rogue traders strike deals with the Kasbalika, and dozens of ships stop off for a welcome break from a long voyage. Is there a more beautiful place in the entire Imperium? The Emperor is merciful to the meek and the powerful alike. There's a job for everyone as long as they have a head on their shoulders. And if you feel like talking to him in person, the Stack, an ancient crime cartel that originated with the first settlers of the Calixis sector. It is run by shadowy clans with robber barons at the helm. Cross their path, and you risk making enemies all over the Keronis Expanse, or even the entire Imperium. As for the agents, they are just shameless, greedy scum. Every third person on Footfall is a Kasbalikan, but that doesn't mean all that rotten filth is acting together. I've been set up more than once just so some Kasbalikan can get one over on his rivals. And yet, the Kasbalika is generous to its customers, if you can afford it. Anything can be obtained, organized, and transported for the right price. The customer is always right. What gave you such an outrageous idea? Was it my immaculate garment? My gorgeous jewelry? Do not worry, Sherin. I will let you know once I become a baroness, should the Exalted One will it. Just imagine this strong and fruitful alliance that... It's not hard to do on Footfall. I spent a year working for good old Christo. He was a brave soldier who gave up the ghost in a scuffle with orcs, and then took over his business. Having a good head on your shoulders and keeping the Exalted One in your heart helps to establish new contacts quickly. Eventually, it really is simple, Shireen. The Kasbalika runs the Imperium's black market, offering special goods. Unlike the rogue traders whose sacred warrants make them immune even from the laws of... Why not? The decision is yours, Shireen. Listen, Shireen, the giver of happiness and the dearest of my friends. I am who I am. A cold trader, a Kasbalikan agent, and your partner. We each have a past, and that past is sealed. I'm not prying into your soul, am I? Well, have pity on mine. It has already been gnawed at by the Aji. And if you don't like the sound of that, we'll just go our separate ways. Deal? All relationships are based on mutual trust. That cool? My trade means knowing the right people and non-people. Having the right connections and making sure the precious goods find their way into the hands of my no less precious customers. My wisdom includes the knowledge of the enemies of humankind, be they Xenos or the lowest scum in the Imperium, as well as the latest knowledge about how much they chop. It has been known to happen. After years of dealing with Xenos, I've learned their customs, and even got a grasp of their language. Except they cringe whenever I start speaking. Arrogant sods. They dislike even our voices, but they never turn away our valuables. Then again, I'm used to seeing sour faces. In this trade, I have no doubt you will have to deal with Xenos sooner or later. When that time comes, Shireen, you will thank the Exalted One for sending me to Thank you, Shireen. Being able to read and write is chief among them. You may not be aware, but this science is beyond the abilities of billions of the Imperium subjects. And yet they happily keep drudging along in their factories, fundi, and assembly lines. Me? I didn't escape Ifrit to consign myself to such misery. It was literacy that paved my path to copied orders, forged signatures, counterfeited papers. The wonderful things that make the wheels of bureaucracy turn in the right direction. Compared to the rabble on footfall, perhaps. Compared to you. Be it power or money, I still have a long way to go. I could purchase one of Footfall's asteroids, but not a planet. I could subjugate a few gangs from the shady districts, but not Vladaya. And so the answer to You're fun to talk. I grew tired of scribing endless contracts and agreements neatly tucked away on Footfall. Well, I did that for how many years? But here, among the stars, you are always balanced on a knife edge. Nothing thrills me more than the tension of a warp jump. Do I trust the Trickster twins? By the Exalted One, no. The underhanded rogues of Footfall came up with that name for a reason. On the other hand, this is why I am keeping them close. Kor and Tora know who lifted them out of the cesspit proudly called the Shadow Quarters, and who has been feeding that ravenous beast their insatiable lust for lucre. No, they are not going to betray me if only because they know I am now a part of your entourage, Shireen. They're not going to let the biggest, vicious, cruel, dangerous beasts. Humans hold little interest for Xenos. We are entertainment for them, a means to keep boredom at bay. A commodity. But some of them contact us once in a while using their own people. Do not deceive yourself by thinking you are safe because there are no Xenos in sight. Those Aji are as cunning as they are ruthless. They cleverly pull at the strings of spies and traitors, subjugate those who do not fall for the promised reward. I think we've said all there is to say on this topic. It is difficult not to be aware of the powers that be, especially ones like Lord Captain Theodora. But we never met personally, as the difference between our positions was far too great. The language on Ifrit, my home world, is quite different from the one spoken in the Coronis Expanse. We bestow more than one meaning upon each word, allowing our wise men to fully express their sagacious thoughts, and us lowly dabblers, our base passions and desires. Take Argy, for example. That is what I call every piece of scum and villain, because Argy means evil and foe and pathetic worm unworthy of consideration. Or take Ashmag. It means fool and little brother and blind man who stumbled and would fall into a pit without guidance. Shireen means friend. Or lucky lady, you mean? My heart has been coveted by proud men with hard eyes, gentle maidens with sensual voices, imperious lords and fierce leaders of void brigands. Only rogue traders have not yet featured among Jai Hedari's intimate friends. Why do you ask, Shireen? You are prying at the treasures of my soul, my little secrets. How else can I keep them safe from such a powerful robber as the rogue trader? I dare not refuse you. Oh, Shireen. With a few words, you have managed to make my heart flutter like a songbird caught in the snare of a skilled hunter. You enjoy being with me. Perhaps you even find me amusing? Every girl dreams of hearing that she will make a fine toy and a worthy diversion. I understand. I'm just having a little fun, Shireen. I can't possibly just say, oh, I like you too. If you are not simply amusing yourself by toying with my feelings, then why not give it a try? Go on. Or, wait. You haven't yet asked how I feel about being your romantic partner. Ask soon, Shireen. I simply cannot reject so ardent an admirer. To insult such sincere passion would be a wicked act in the eyes of the Exalted One. I have no doubt that you are a wonderful conversationalist, Shireen. I will make a note of your invitation and make sure to take you up on it when I next get hungry. But if the feelings in your soul have become a fire that is burning you up from within, then you may express them by bestowing a gift upon your humble servant. Is there a sweeter subject in the universe to discuss, Sher? Hush, Shireen. Let's not scare off the wonderful feeling that weaves a pattern of passion between us in silken thread. Ask the rose if it likes to receive the kisses of the sun every morning. Ask the sand dune if it likes to feel the caressing and playful touch of the... Then let us both be silent together about... Oh,
Messiah knows all, comprehends all. Given the high status of the unit von Valancius and his services rendered to the Adeptus Mechanicus, perhaps a request for special leniency for the unit Jai Hidari, the sentence of oblivion without sabotorization that is stipulated for her crimes, then, hypothetically, in time she would be able to compensate for a small portion of the sacrileges She has committed against the Omnissiah. May your late...
Well, it would have to be something that screams, "Look how much the rogue trader loves me," in the faces of everyone she meets. Like a fabulous gown beyond anything that even the noble women of Dargonus can acquire. Of course.
Words cannot describe how boring the bridge is without our stimulating conversations. I know very little about how ordinary couples come together. The books I have read always skirted around that side of life, keeping silent on... Right here? Are you sure? Of course. I have...
Greetings! Yes, I'm ready. I would ask only one thing of you, Rogue Trader. If I may, I would like to see the chamber of the sacred war...
Keep your wits about you. I know.
Just like
Remember, innocence proves nothing.